Everyone. My name is Dr. Cadet, and welcome back to another episode of Ascend TV. At Ascend, we help self-insured employers lower their workers' compensation costs, partly by reviewing claims and also by providing provider education. Today, I wanted to talk to you all about a young lady who's 39 years old, and she works as an assistant manager at a store. And she was carrying a heavy crate of chlorine, and the crate slipped out of her hand, accidentally crushing her right index finger in between a second crate, fracturing her finger. Ouch, right? If you've ever slammed your finger in a car door, we can imagine what this patient is experiencing. So she went and sought care with her primary care provider, keywords there, as opposed to her primary treating provider. So in workers' compensation, the two are usually different. Sometimes they can be one and the same, but as we'll see in this case, a lot of primary care providers are not familiar with workers' compensation, and that can cause the case to go off the cliff. I digress. So she started receiving treatment. She had underlying rheumatoid arthritis, which was extremely painful to her. So when she would wake up in the mornings, her hands would be stiff, they would be painful. This would go on throughout the day. And so now we've got this finger fracture that ends up healing in such a way that her distal interphalangeal joint, or her DIP joint, that tip of the index finger there, that joint fused. So now she can't bend the tip of her index finger, right? She also complained of ongoing pain. So it's very important at this point to step back and say, okay, she had a finger fracture. How long does it take? How long should it take for a finger fracture to heal? If you said 8 weeks, you're absolutely right. Now, where am I getting that number from? Well, we learn in medical school, right, that bones typically take 6 to 8 weeks to heal, but there are a variety of resources online, such where you can plug in diagnoses and it will tell you how long should it take for certain things to heal if you don't already know that. So when she reached the 8-week mark and it was determined that the bone has healed, that she's unable to flex her finger, but it's healed, that is an appropriate time to say, hey, we've done all that we can do for your finger. We're so sorry you can't bend it anymore. We've sent you to occupational therapy, and they're not really able to do anything, obviously, because you can't get range of motion on a bone that has fused. Well, in this case, the primary care provider decided to send the patient to a hand surgeon. Okay, the hand surgeon evaluates the patient and says, yeah, we could do surgery on your finger. You wouldn't regain your range of motion, but perhaps that would help with your pain. Now, if there's any surgeons who are watching this video, I would love for you to comment and tell me I'm wrong. But if the bone has fused, how is doing surgery on the finger, how is that going to solve the pain problem when we already know she has underlying severe rheumatoid arthritis? Is it not reasonable that her ongoing pain is because of her rheumatoid arthritis and not of her healed fracture? The hand surgeon also said, even if we do surgery, you won't regain your range of motion, which is my secondary point. In workers' compensation, there does come a time where the focus needs to stop being on, hey, we got to get this patient to 0 out of 10 pain, and it moves to, hey, we have to get this patient back to full functionality. So if I fractured my finger and it will no longer bend, do I still have function? Can I still pick up objects? Can I still put my clothes on? Can I still feed myself? Can I still make the schedule at the store? Now, if you review the job description for this patient, it says that she should be able to lift up to 40 pounds, but it also says she can delegate lifting and other responsibilities to her subordinates. So while it's not ideal that the tip of your finger will not bend anymore, you can still pick objects up. And if you don't want to pick up any objects, you can tell your subordinates to pick up the heavy objects. Do you see where I'm going with this? So there needs to be a level of flexibility, because if she amputated the finger, we'd be in the very same situation where she's not able to flex the tip of the finger, but that would not preclude her from driving, from going to get her groceries, from cleaning her house. All right. So we have to move away from trying to 100% remove pain, which is a great goal, but it's not always realistic, to does this person have full function? And so in this case, this woman has function of her hand. She can do the things that she needs to do to survive and to work. So at that point, when the surgeon said that and the primary care doctor is getting the note, it would be appropriate to have a conversation with the patient and say, look, I'm really sorry that this happened to you. We've tried different medications, we've tried splinting, we've tried occupational therapy. The bone has fused in such a way that you're not able to bend the tip of your finger anymore. And while not ideal, at least you still have your finger, and at least you're still able to use it to do the things that you need to do to take care of yourself. I know that you still have continued pain. More than likely, that's due to your underlying arthritis. So at this time, we're going to go ahead and return you back to full duty work. We'll even give you future medical care so that if at any point you would like to come back and see the orthopedic surgeon, you can. And you discharge the patient and you close the claim. You don't keep the claim open for 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. If someone breaks their finger, how much should that cost? If you were to look it up, if someone breaks their finger, like in this case, it should cost about $4,400. How much do you think this claim costs? Because at the 8-week mark, when this otherwise healthy 39-year-old's finger healed, instead of having this conversation on realistic expectations and closing the claim, it was allowed to stay open for more than 7 months. It ended up costing the employer over $35,000. And again, as practitioners, physicians, we don't think about the costs because we're not the one paying it. But if I went to that primary care doctor and I said, hey, the way that you're managing this case is pretty expensive. And so because you're not willing to look up how long it takes for a finger fracture to heal, you're not willing to have conversations with patients that direct their focus more away from the pain and towards functionality, because you're not willing to discharge this patient and you want to hold on to her from the cradle to the grave, every paycheck, we're going to deduct $5,000 to cover the cost of this claim. If we started doing that, I think we would get a lot of people angry, but it would help physicians, physician's assistants, nurse practitioners, the people who have embarked on practicing in workers' compensation. It would help them to wake up and see how they are practicing is impacting not only the worker, but the employer. So you all let me know in the comments what you think about what I'm saying, because these are real things that are happening every single day. We're in this system called workers' compensation, and the majority of the healthcare providers who are in the system have no understanding of workers' compensation. They have no understanding how the way they're practicing or their lack of efficiency is costing employers millions of dollars every year. And I can't really be too harsh on physicians and other providers because these aren't skills that are taught in medical school, and they aren't skills that are taught in most residency programs. If you do occupational medicine and you're blessed to run across a practitioner who understands kind of this behind the curtain view of these cases, you should cling to that person. So until next time, bye.